Hello, vinyl community. This is Mike with TCAT's Deep Vinyl Tracks. I wanted to come on and do a quick video today in response to a thread that Brian from Embryonic Robot started, and that's showing 10 songs that I hate. Now, these 10 songs are all from uh, albums that I currently own on vinyl. Uh, there's so many more I could list, but of course, since I hate them so much, I usually don't have them. But I thought I'd go through and see if there are any songs on some of the vinyl that I do have that I don't like so much. And so I've got those 10 songs together. This first one is from an album that I really like by Steve Miller Band. It's called Number 5. There's a song on here called Hot Chili, and I don't know, just terrible, terrible song. Um, just sounds quite contrived, just silly, stupid lyrics. And Steve Miller isn't really the best lyrical writer out there. Even though this album is really good, it comes from his psychedelic years. That particular song, Hot Chili, is just atrocious. I mean, here's one of the verses. Hot chili is groovy after a movie or watching TV, but when you order south of the border, soon you see it's hotter than new. It will melt your spoon. So, buddy, you better get ready for eating hot chili. It's not silly to eat hot chili. Yeah, it's as bad as it sounds. Uh, the next one, number 2, comes from a band that I feel like I have to be a completist on for some reason. I don't know why. Alan Parsons Project. This is the album that I do not like from them, called Eve. And I just, for some reason, feel like I should own it since I'm trying to get all of their albums. This is just an all around bad album. Uh, but one song in particular that I do not like is the song called I'd Rather Be a Man. Uh, yeah, you don't even have to imagine what that's like. It's just terrible lyrics, terrible song. Hate that song. Not really fond of this album either, so it doesn't get played very much. Another one is from a band that I've collected a lot of their albums, but their last couple of albums just really stink. The band is called The Amazing Blondell. They are a progressive folk band, and this album, Inspiration, was their attempt to become more of a band that did love ballads. You know, Bread was a big band back at the time, and they were trying to follow in their footsteps. They should have stayed with their folk music. This is just an awful album, especially the song Love Song. They can't do love songs. They were better off doing the old style of folk that they had. And it's funny, you look at the pictures here, there, there were 2 members of the band at this point. Originally, there were 3. But this guy looks like he's bored, and this guy looks like he's a pervert or something. Anyway, that reflects this album. But again, one of those that I have to have just because. Another one, this is from one of my favorite 10cc albums, the original soundtrack. The last track on here is called The Film of My Love, which I think is just an awful song, especially since it's the last song on the album. The rest of the album is very strong, has some very good and good moments. Their music is their usual, there's the usual sarcastic music and usual serious music on this. But The Film of My Love is just an awful closer and an awful song. Electric Light Orchestra, Jeff Lynne, has had some good songs and he's had some bad songs. From the album A New World Record, the song Rock Aria. is just awful. It's an attempt to mesh rock music and opera, not in the way that Bohemian Rhapsody did, which, was one that Brian said he hated. Um, I love that song, but I hate rock aria. It's just awful. Um, I don't know, just don't like it. Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Big fan of most of their music except for their later stuff. This is Works Volume 2, which I do like this album. But there's one song on here called So Far to Fall. Greg Lake's lyrics are just atrocious. Just an awful song. And I don't know. I just can't. I hate the song. I just absolutely hate it. And it really brings down this entire album, which is actually a pretty good album, full of variety. But that song just stinks. Another album that I really like is Fleetwood Mac's Bare Trees. I find this is one of their better earlier albums. But it ends on a bad note with a track called Thoughts on a Gray Day. The track is 2 minutes long, and all it is some old lady, it sounds like an old lady, reciting poetry really badly. She has to go back and keep correcting herself, and it's very painful to listen to. It's a good thing the rest of the album is really good, because that track just drags it down, and especially being the last track, it leaves you with a bad impression. But it actually took me a few years to get over that fact when I first heard this album many years ago. But I've grown to appreciate it and just try to ignore that track. This one may get me in trouble. This is one of my favorite Led Zeppelin albums. I think some of you may already know which song I'm talking about on this one. I think I ranked this at number 2, which I feel is a very strong album, except for the crunge. I don't know. I for many years I didn't know the whole point behind the song. Apparently, it's a sarcastic look at them trying to imitate James Brown, being funky, and even trying to imitate his vocals. I don't know. It's just awful. Robert Plant sounds terrible on it. Yeah, it has a funny ending, but the song overall just doesn't do it for me. Again, it's one that I have to tolerate if I'm listening through the entire album, but a lot of times I'll just end up skipping past that track. Big fan of Rick Wakeman. He's one of my favorite keyboardists. This is a great album called Criminal Record. Probably one of my favorite Rick Wakeman albums, because there's so much variety. He goes into different areas with this one. It's not all synth. There's some piano there, but very tastefully done. But there's one song on here called the Breathalyzer, I believe it's called. And just awful. I mean, there's a lot of synth on that particular song, which is okay, but then he attempts to sing at the end of it. He attempts to be funny, and it just falls flat. Otherwise, this would be a perfect album. Because of that song, it's not. And one more. This is number 10. Supertramp. This is their last album with both Rick Davies and mind went blank. Anyway, Rick Davies does a great job. Roger Hodgson's songs on this are not so great. Rick Davies' songs are great. So it's kind of an inconsistent album. But there's a song on here by Roger Hodgson called C'est le bon. And another song on here called Know Who You Are. Just two awfully terrible, corny songs that Roger Hodgson was such a much better songwriter than what he shows on this particular album. Apparently, at this time, his heart was out of it. He didn't like being with Supertramp. He wanted to go solo. So, both him and Rick Davies were having problems. And that's what happens when you get two usually talented musicians together trying to share a band. Things usually don't work out very well. But the song Know Who You Are is just so schmaltzy, so awfully done. So that ends up being my number 10. Of course, I can't put on songs like Boys to Men, since I don't own any of their albums. But the song I'll Make Love to You just irritates me to no end, so I don't even try to like anything by them. So many more that I could name, but those are the 10 that I actually have vinyl for. So thank you, Brian from Embryonic Robot, for coming up with this thread. I think it's a fun thread, and I think there should be a lot of people out there that should try this out. Tell us what your most hated 10 songs are that you own, and thank you for watching. We will talk to you later.